Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2. Today I'm going to be showing you guys what is by far and away the best DPS build that you can possibly set up right now. No questions about it, this build does absolutely insane damage, and you can use pretty much any gun you want with it. You can use an LMG, you can use an AR, you can use a rifle, and there's very minimal setup that required to change any of your weapons. If any at all, you could really just run the exact same build and use any of those weapons. This build is fantastic if you're trying to solo heroic, do legendary with friends, Dark Zone, anything that you want to do, this build is going to be more than good enough to do that. By the way, obviously, I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm trying a new setup with my camera because my streaming PC was having some problems, so I'm setting up a whole bunch of different stuff, so if this doesn't look very good, please let me know. If it does look good, please let me know. I'm trying a different thing. But if it doesn't look good, my apologies. I'm just trying to get this all sorted out. But yeah, real quickly before I get into the video, if anybody needs help farming or setting up a build just like this, maybe you don't have a lot of time and you need help farming the gear, or you need help setting the gear up once you already have it, or you need help, farming like the season pass or anything like that, please feel free to email me at nick2biz@gmail.com, and I would be more than happy to help you out with that. Additionally, if you have any other questions, or you just like to see me play the game, make some new builds, talk crap with me or whatever, I stream over on Twitch at pretty much every single day at twitch.tv/nick2. I'd love to see more of you guys around. And yeah, if you liked the video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe for videos similar to this one. So let's just get right into the build. First off, we're just going to talk about specializations. Honestly, you can really use whatever you want. I think Gunner is the best because it is the overall most well-rounded spec, especially for doing damage if you're using like a fully auto weapon, which most people are going to be either using an AR or an LMG. The reason for this is, 5% rate of fire on kill is very good. Generating passive ammo is very good. Weapon handling while you're not moving is very good. Killing enemies, giving you 10% armor on kill is good. Your third reload being 50% faster is really good. The armor kit is just standard better than the default armor kit. And the riot foam grenade is pretty good for CC. So overall, the gunner tree is very well rounded and is just an amazing thing to be using. But if you want to use something else, that's not really all that big of a deal. If you're using like a rifle, you can definitely swap the sharpshooter for the increased headshot damage buff. If you want to use demolitionist for the grenade launcher and you like having the 5% damage targets out of cover, you can do that. There's not that big of a downside to using either or. I just think that the gunner is typically going to be your best bet. Alright, so getting into the build, let's first talk about weapons. So personally, I like to use LMGs. These are mathematically the strongest weapons in the entire game currently, but if you want to use an AR, you can definitely do that, and I'll give you guys some tips on other weapon types that you can use and succeed with. I'm just going to go over the talents quickly and what you want to roll on them pretty quickly. In terms of what LMGs you want to use, you either want to use an MG5 or you want to use a Negev. The MG5 has a higher built-in headshot multiplier, which is why it's typically going to be better for clearing normal NPCs than the Negev would. It also just has higher base damage, but the Negev does have a bigger mag size as well as higher RPM. So I typically like to have a second Negev with strained, and then I swap to it and to melt a boss. Typically bosses that don't have a headshot hitbox, the Negev will end up edging out the MG5, especially if you're able to shoot over 100 bullets in that period of time. The Negev is going to be better for bosses, especially if you use strained. You'll be able to just melt a boss that doesn't have a headshot hitbox, kill it really quickly. Otherwise, the Bullet King is fantastic for killing bosses as well, and just overall, having an infinite mag is really good. I unfortunately don't have a Bullet King yet. I'd probably use it from time to time, but a normal MG5 with fast hands is very good. You pretty much never want to use this without fast hands unless you're just trying to dish out insane amounts of damage in a very short period of time. But fast hands is really good for sustained damage over a long period of time because it just makes your reload much faster. And having a 5-second reload is pretty bad. Fast hands will make it a 1.7-second reload because it gets capped by the animation. If you didn't want to use fast hands, you could use strained is really good. Killer is pretty good in solo, and breadbasket is decent. But yeah, that's what you want to use on your LMG. In terms of the attributes on your LMG, you either want to get rate of fire or crit chance. You can't get damage to targets out of cover because you already have it. That's pretty much the three that you would like to focus on. So if you're running an M1A, if you're running a LMG, if you're running a assault rifle, you want either rate of fire, crit chance, damage to targets out of cover, or you want damage to armor. All four of those actually are going to be the best ones. Personally, I think the two best are damage to targets out of cover, and then damage to armor, and then rate of fire. Damage to armor and rate of fire are kind of in between each other, and then crit chance, depending upon your build setup, could be really good as well because you can get about 10%. Talking about rifles, the only rifle that I think is that worth using is the M1A. In terms of talents that you want on it, you either want breadbasket. Getting the named one is pretty easy because it always rolls with Lucky Shot. I don't think Lucky Shot is that good, but it's pretty easy to get this one. I have a decent roll of it. Otherwise, you would want like Killer, Ranger is pretty good, Boomerang is pretty good. All those talents are really good. I think the best one on an M1A is probably either going to be Breadbasket or Rifleman, but all the others that I mentioned are pretty good as well. And pretty much the exact same thing for an AR. If you want to use an AR, I'd either go with the FAMAS or I would go with a P416 / the Police M4. And then same thing for talents. You probably, on an AR, you probably want Strained. You don't want Strained on an M1A because it's kind of hard to keep it up. But on an assault rifle where you're shooting full auto, Strained is really good, Killer is really good. The other ones that I mentioned are also really good, like Breadbasket and stuff like that. Those are going to be pretty decent. Ranger, not so much on an assault rifle. On an assault rifle, you really just want to get Strained because the reload time is not that big of a deal. In terms of modding your weapons, I typically just go full crit chance. On my MG5, I like to run 1 accuracy mod. You don't have to do this. I just think, it helps with the spread, so it helps me just hit more shots, and the more shots you hit, the more damage you're doing. So to me, I like to run 1 accuracy mod. If you don't want to do that, just slap on a crit chance mod and you'll be fine. I run a large pouch on my mag here. Same exact thing for every single gun. You just want the magazine size in the holes in the bottom there, and then you want crit chance on your rolls. I didn't really talk about SMGs that much, but I mean, pretty much just apply what I said about ARs to SMGs, and you're perfectly fine. So when it comes to the actual gear, there's a few different things that you can run, but most builds are going to be pretty similar. Personally, I'm running 3-piece Providence, and then the named Overlord knee pads, the named Petrov gloves, and then a Cheska backpack. The reason I'm doing this is it's pretty much just an all crit build. All you want is all crit. I'm going to mention a couple things like Coyote's mask and then the Hollow Man mask, but we'll just talk about the rolls first, and then I'll go into other pieces that you could swap with. But honestly, you just want crit everywhere. As you can see, 3-piece Providence gives me 10% headshot, which is really good, but then I'm getting 10% crit chance, 15% crit damage, and then in my attribute rolls, I'm just going full into crit. The reason for this is that there are a lot of NPCs that do not have headshot hitboxes, so stacking into crit is going to just give you damage towards every single thing that you're fighting. It's very consistent, and it just does more damage. Like, more often than not, stacking crit damage will just be more beneficial than going for headshot damage at all, just because of the way that crit damage scales with your weapon damage and stuff like that. And it's just better overall because a lot of things don't have headshot hitboxes. So it's very easy to just get a lot of crit now, especially with all the brand sets. Another brand set that I would take a look at trying to get would be 1-piece Sombra. This and 3-piece Providence are interchangeable because both of them give 15% crit damage. So as long as you have those in there, it's really good. Other than stacking a lot of crit, I'll talk about the talents right after this. Other than stacking a lot of crit, there's 2 named items that are particularly good. So the Petrov gloves give you 11% damage to armor. This is the only thing that you can get damage to armor on in terms of your actual gear, like your gloves or anything like that. This gives you damage to armor, which is very good, and since I'm using an LMG, it's perfect. As well as running the Overlord knee pads, this gives you 15% damage to targets out of cover. This is by far and away probably one of the best items in the entire game, so you 100% want to get this, and if you're running a rifle, this complements that very well. Another named item that I don't have yet is the Hollow Man. This is really good. It's only particularly good in either heroic or legendary, where things with health actually survive for a long time, because this is going to give you 21% damage to health, which is a huge number, and that's multiplicative on top of all of your current damage. So this will be a ton of damage against like red bars or against the doggos or any weak point, like on a tank in the mission where you're trying to get the Bullet King. Anything like that, damage to health is going to be hugely beneficial. But outside of that, if you're doing challenging missions or stuff, you'd probably just rather have the crit, because the downside to this is that you're losing 1 attribute as well as a Providence brand set. So it's not really that great in a solo context if you're not doing heroic and stuff. And even if you are solo, you probably want to be running the Coyote's mask anyways, because if you're using the 0 to 15 meter buff, or any of these buffs rather, you're getting a lot of crit chance, crit damage. I talked more about this in a separate video, and I'll leave a link to that right here, so if you want to watch that. But more often than not, if you're solo, you'll be running a Coyote's mask, in which case you won't even be able to use a Y'all mask anyway. And again, if you're running the Y'all mask, you're swapping a red attribute and a brand set just to get that damage to health. And just like my friends rolled here, it's hard to get a very good roll that doesn't have another yellow or a blue or something on it. So I'd say it's only worth it if you're doing legendary. Outside of that, don't worry about it too much. Just try to get 3-piece Providence, 1-piece Cheska for crit chance, and then these named items here, and then maybe a Sombra or something like that for the crit damage. You can put either of those in any of these pieces here, and you'll be fine. So in terms of talents, On the chest piece, I'm running Perfect Glass Cannon. This, of course, puts me in a pretty scary spot where I'm just going to be taking a lot of damage, but my damage is amplified by 30%, and amplified damage is multiplicative on top of all of the damage that you have, so this is just a massive DPS increase. However, if you aren't comfortable with taking additional damage, you could very easily swap to, sometimes like when I do a heroic mission, if I'm like trying to solo it or something and I'm taking a lot of damage, I'll just swap to Obliterate. This is pretty consistent damage. I'll pretty much just have this up all the time. If you're running a rifle, Obliterate isn't too good. It's okay though, you'll get the stacks up, but you'll quickly lose it if you're not shooting continuously, so not that great for a rifle, but for anything full auto, Obliterate is really good. And if you want some more survivability, you can use like the Tardigrade exotic, you can use Unbreakable potentially, Entrench, stuff like that. Personally, I just like to use Perfect Glass Cannon on the Sacrifice, and you can get normal Glass Cannon as well. Perfect Glass Cannon just increases your amplified damage by 5%, and then it makes you take 60% more damage instead of 50. My roll isn't that great. Again, you just want to be balancing weapon damage, crit chance, and crit damage, and mine unfortunately has explosive resistance, but not that big of a deal. In terms of your backpack, the talents that you want, there are a few different ones. There's a named Providence piece called the Gift that gives you perfect vigilance. This is really good. It makes it to where you deal 25% more damage every second that you have not been hit, but then if you get hit, you lose that buff for 4 seconds. With the perfect piece, you lose it for 3 seconds. Maybe I have a piece in my inventory and I can show you guys what it does. I don't have one in my inventory, but 25% damage is probably the best one that you can get. It's very consistent. Overall, Vigilance is probably, like I said, the best talent. Outside of that, Concussion is particularly good in both the group and a solo context. You can get this up a lot of the time, just extra weapon damage pretty much all the time. Composure is okay, but it's only 15% weapon damage, and again, you have to be in cover. Not that great. Unstoppable Force is very good for solo, but not very good in group, especially not good when you're trying to kill like NPCs that have a ton of health. You're not going to have this up most of the time, so I'd highly recommend Vigilance and then Concussion. Those are my 2 recommendations for that. Outside of that, Unstoppable Force is okay, Composure is okay, and then Bloodsucker maybe, but the survivability given Bloodsucker is pretty negligible as is. I tried Clutch, not worth it in my opinion, and then everything else, not all that relevant. Again, this is a damage build, this is not a survivability build. Outside of that, for skills and stuff like that, I like to use the Reviver Hive. This is good in pretty much any situation. And I also like to use the Fixer Drone. Considering that we are so squishy, the Fixer Drone just sits there and heals me. We don't really heal in combat at all, so having something that is healing me a little bit to where I don't have to like spam my medkits over and over again, that helps me out a lot. Other than that, the Defender Drone is okay in like PvP or something, but that's pretty much it. In terms of like pistols or something, you can use whatever you want. You can use a gun that has finisher, maybe the Orbit. Doesn't really matter, you can use whatever you want there. Here's my stat sheet. This is with my MG5 equipped. One thing that I should mention is that the reason that I have this much crit chance and this much crit damage, I'm not going for 60% crit chance. The reason is because usually somebody will be in my group running a Coyote's mask, and if they are, I'll probably be benefiting from the 15 to 25 meter buff a lot. And if I was crit capped, I wouldn't benefit from this much at all because this is giving me 10% crit chance. And additionally, if they gave me the 25 meter thing, I wouldn't benefit from it at all. I'd benefit 0 from it. So being at 45% puts you in a happy middle ground where you're not losing too much crit chance to where you're natively not going to have a lot of, overall damage without the mask proc being at 25 meters, but you're still going to have pretty good damage regardless of what mask proc you have. This is just what I'm running right now. If I were to run my mask, I would swap my crit damage mod here. I think it's a 10-7 one. I'd swap that, and then my stats would look like this. And I'm still at about the same amount of crit chance. I just lost some crit damage in the form of Providence, but that's definitely worth it because I'd be gaining 25% crit damage more often than not. And then if I wasn't, not a big deal, gaining 10% crit chance, and that puts me right near the cap, and then 25% crit chance. I'm still a little bit under that, but it's not that big of a deal. I recommend hovering between 40 to 50% crit chance. Anything higher or anything lower, you're just going to be losing out on too much crit damage or losing out on too much crit chance either way. So, yep, those are my recommendations. But that's pretty much it for the build. Obviously, my survivability is not that great, but that's what this build is for, doing damage and killing things before they kill you. In terms of SHD stuff, I made a video about this. I'll just leave a link to that. This is how I have it at the moment. I don't have a lot of SHD levels and I mess it up a few times, but I will just leave a link to how I did that before. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this helped. If it did, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe for videos similar to this one. Make sure to follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Nick2 and follow me over on Twitter at Nick2YT. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.
I'm gonna fuck you up!
Heavily armored hostile detected.
Eat this! I'm mobilizing target!
Taking care of it.
Incoming hostiles detected.
Friendly down! Now! I got you.
I hit that true son.